All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, FCM community. This is a podcast. This is a podcast that has been generated from Maddie. So I'm going to basically bounce it over to him here in a second. He is going to be your, for lack of a better term, MC tonight. So he's going to walk you through the talking points that he's created and shared with me that are all valid things that are good for us to talk about. So again, I'm going to leave it mostly up to him. I'm going to chime in when needed. Gilly is here as well, showing his pretty face on camera in his theater room because, he wants to rub it into the rest of us. So that's okay. He has a theater room and no NL East championships yet. So we'll see what happens. But, again, this is Maddie's show. We're going to give it to him and he's going to lead us through it. So, Maddie, on to you.
All right, so I guess so for the night, got a few different topics to talk about. Some, of course, the big one, of course, being the trade deadline that is happening, has happened. And not just the trade deadline, but basically anything that's happened since the draft that has kind of been trades to help improve teams for the playoff race, as well as some other topics that has kind of come up, different podcasts, maybe in the chat. Pretty much a couple of topics that I feel are kind of worthy to touch on to kind of see what other people think about it. Um, and so those topics would be, the tanking versus rebuilding. Some that might be just semantics, but for some other people, there's a big difference between the two strategies. The high endurance relievers. That's something I think I mentioned on that last draft pod. I just wanted to mention something on there since it was talked about a little bit in the chat. Um, Next, we would have the draft process, and that's just something that I kind of thought that would be interesting to talk about because we don't do those like pre-draft pods anymore. It's kind of taboo, but I think it's kind of interesting maybe to just kind of to get ideas of what do you look for, what's your whole process of from when we see the first off-season file to actually coming to draft day. What do you do? How do you get ready? And all that. And of course, like I said, the trade deadline. Talk about some of the different trades, maybe some teams that could have added that didn't add. In general, trade deadline strategy. So, go back to first topic: tanking versus rebuilding. For myself, there is two very different strategies with it. Uh, Tanking, purposely playing guys who should not be there, or guys who are out of position. Basically, you're shooting for no more than 50. If you win 51 wins, that's a bad season for you because you won one too many. Um, then there's the actual rebuilding, which is playing guys who they're not starters, but they'd be worthy bench players or depth guys if you're actually trying to win. Um, Guys that won't be good, but you weren't playing guys that you would just release if you were actually again trying to win games and make the playoff. So, Mizzy, what do you think about that first little topic there?
Yeah, so I definitely took a hard stance when it came to tanking versus rebuilding. I think the person that everybody was talking about um, in that topic, at least in the chat that one day, was Stang's rebuild, and I'm definitely dead set on it being a rebuild. Everybody rebuilds differently, and I think that the line is very clear. I think tanking is people that are playing people out of position, people that are putting those shortstops at third base, people that are putting those first basemen at third base, people that are putting those horribly club-footed, no-gloved left fielders in center field, and going, they're a center fielder. The fuck they are. I think that those are tankers, people that are actively playing people. I don't want to say well out of position because if they're doing it right, they're playing guys that are just barely out of position, like just enough that, like, even if they get yelled at, they're like, well, they're technically okay. Like, they have enough pre-certs there to be technically called whatever position they're being put in. Those are tankers. People that are putting people that are average to slightly below average at certain positions where they should be above average if you really want to win. They're rebuilders. Stang, for example, he's rebuilding. He's clearly going to rebuild. He's traded away all of his good assets minus one, and is actively trying to rebuild. He's trying to get a shitty team. I don't want to say a shitty team. He wants to get all of his good players off his team and replace them with meh players and win the games that he needs to win, get the picks that he needs to get, and move on. This is the way that he's done it for decades now. He builds up these championship rosters, wins a World Series or two, and then rebuilds. And he rebuilds by tearing things down to the studs and then building it back up again. And it's a process that many people do, and he does it probably the best in the league. There's a couple other guys that do it as well, but I think that he always has very good windows when he does this. He completely tears down and rebuilds for a couple years, but then within a couple years he's back up. So there's other teams that do it well as well, but they're a decade or two sometimes where they're just constantly in that tearing down pieces and putting new ones in like a contractor that doesn't know what the fuck he's doing and keeps redesigning as he's going. Like there's plenty of teams out there that do that style. Stang is not that. He tears it down and rebuilds it, and it comes back strong every time. Makes a run, does it again. There's nothing wrong with that. He's not playing guys horribly out of position. He's not playing center fielder, sit catcher, or any bullshit like that. So rebuilding, yes. Tanking, no.
Yeah. Skilly here.
Yeah, I'm here. I guess everything you said, Maddie, I agree with. I think the line comes, in my opinion, where you get the rebuilding, the piece where I think it was your last sentence in your pre-pod comment where if you aren't playing guys that you would outright release, then you were making run for the playoffs essentially. So essentially, you wouldn't be outright releasing those guys. I think that's where the line comes because I know I've played it. There was a couple years with Montreal. I played some pretty shitty players, and it might have been the year I hit 50 on the dot. I probably wouldn't have been playing half those guys. I would have released them. Now I wasn't playing guys out of position. I wasn't playing guys that were necessarily terrible, but they were quad A guys, and so some of the guys I would have released, some of them not. So I guess that's the line we probably where all the rub comes in is, are you playing shitty guys, or are you purposely playing guys out of position? And if you're playing shitty guys and you're not going to make it, go find a couple guys. It's not hard to hit at least 50. So that would be the only thing I'd add. But you already said everything you need to say.
Right. And I think just to expand on that, what I said first is, for people who even like leave guys off of the bench, certain positions, you leave a catcher or you leave a guy who can actually play shortstop off of the bench. Like, yeah, those aren't huge things, but also that's the point. The point is to not make it huge, but if you can shave off 1, 2, 3 wins out of an entire season, that's what you want when you're actually tanking. When you're rebuilding, like if I look at my own roster and I think about, if I was rebuilding right now, I can see that my second baseman would be Angel Guimarães. He would be a guy who I would say, screw it, I'll play him at second base. He has defense. Okay, I know that. Offensively, I don't know what he'll do at this point, but I know he's at least going to play pretty good defense.
The other thing I'd
fielder.
Oh, I'm sorry, Maddie. Go ahead.
My center fielder would definitely be Mike Schiffman. 100%. If I was rebuilding, boom, Mike Schiffman. He's my center fielder. I don't care. He's okay enough.
The other thing I was going to add is a couple things that I think rebuilders are undervaluing because I know I've done this in the past and I know I've changed kind of how I've had my strategy on it, but it doesn't hurt to go out and sign a couple guys in free agency that you could potentially move for picks later as part of your rebuilding process. I think rebuilding, and I know Stang does it, and he does it well, and he's a slash and burn. He's one of the few guys that does this really well. And he just basically sets fire to his lineup, and he's back 6-7 years later. For some markets, that's death to your market. You can't withstand that kind of like series of seasons of losing. And if you don't hit like Stang hits every now and then, you're back in for 6 seasons of losing. So I think the slash and burn tanking meant, or not slash and burn rebuild, or whatever we want to call it, depending on the day. He's really traveling a fine line there. But go out and get some guys in free agency, and then try to trade them later after that year. And that's a good little rebuilding strategy too. It shouldn't always be about how close you can get to 50, but can you actually make something out of guys you pick up? That would be another sign that the teams, even though they're not trying to win, they're trying to get some more picks, they're still trying to be a little bit competitive and trying a different rebuild strategy. I know Mizzy does this a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely very good points there. There are some markets where if you lose for too often, it just sinks your fan base, your fan loyalty, and again, for some of those markets, it can be very tough to build those back up, as well as, like you said, go out there and sign some guys in free agency. Maybe you can trade them for something. It doesn't have to be much. Maybe it's just like a 5th-round prospect, but you only paid like $1 million for the guy. Who cares? That's a win, Or if nothing else, if absolutely nothing else, you've made some other teams maybe spend a little bit more money on a different player. So instead of a good team getting a bench guy for $2 million for 2 years, they've had to spend $3 million for the same guy. And every little bit helps. It is kind of funny sometimes when you see, like Andy. I think with him with the Reds, I saw him get some bench guy dirt cheap, and I'm thinking, why isn't someone else bidding him up just to do it, just to make him spend just a bit more money, or if nothing else, maybe you get the guy and then you can flip him. So moving on, we'll go to my little topic rant that I kind of said that I hate high endurance relief. For me, I don't like them just because of how Mogul uses. It's not necessarily because of I want to see my closer get save stat. Now, sure, that's a product of a bullpen being used how I would like to see it, but I really don't care about that. It's the fact that Mogul tends to be like, well, hey, this guy isn't tired, so let's just keep pitching him, even though we should go to a different guy, a better guy. Just keep throwing him until he completely fucks it up. And usually for Mogul, that's about 1 or 2 pitches too late.
Hello?
So,
Weird. Sorry.
hello.
Yeah, I was talking and nothing was coming through. I my computer, I don't have it I'm mobile right now. I don't have it actually plugged into a electronic source. So it went dormant on me for a second there and then wouldn't let me talk. So doesn't matter. The only thing I was gonna say on that last topic, which I did not, Gilly. The only thing that I was trying to say on that last topic was that a person that does that every year and gets shit for it is Dan. Dan does that every year. He goes out and signs comp A's and comp B's every year. A, to fill out his roster, and B, to eventually trade them. I'm pretty sure he just traded one we're going to talk about a little bit later for an interesting deal. So it's just one of those things. I think that, like what Gilly said, if people do that, it's a great way to guarantee you get 50 wins, and B, give yourself a good trade trip for later in the season when people are desperate, need stuff, and go, oh, well, I didn't want him then, but screw it, I need him now. And then they pay you something good for it.
Definitely. Yep. There's definitely a point to that. And yeah, definitely. I think we will get to one of those, maybe 2 of those. But yeah. So for the relievers, the example that I gave, I gave you to the wrong date. The date in file is June 9th, not July 9th. July 9th probably got you guys. If you clicked on that and checked it out, you're like, what the hell is he talking about? There's nothing weird there. But so if you look at Milwaukee's closer, Nick McNeese, and if you look at, well, first I guess I'll go back a little bit and say, if you look at him, you see that he has some pretty good numbers, pretty much good numbers all throughout his time with the Brewers. Very, very good reliever. But I absolutely just hate how Mogul uses him and the rest of the Brewers bullpen. And now, again, that is June 9th. So if you go to June 9th and bring it up, you'll find out that Dustin Taub went 5 innings. Okay enough baseball. I think at the time, were they losing or the tie ball game? Something. Yeah, I think they were losing at that time. And so they brought in McNeese, the closer, in the 6th inning. And, he went and pitched 3 innings of shutout baseball. Very good. And then Correa came in the 9th and got the save. Now, at first you're saying, well, okay, they used the best reliever in probably the best situation. Got the outs, got the win. Great. And yeah, I would definitely agree. If this were like playoff baseball or one of the games that ended the season that you really needed for a playoff spot. But being this is the middle of the season, meant that that just screwed up your whole bullpen, usage, the rest needed, and just threw everything out of whack to where now I don't know if I don't think it really happened in the next few games after this, but it could have, in the fact of you could have needed your closer to close out a game, to close out a really close game, and you didn't have him because you just used him for 3 innings. He's not available. So, Gilly, Mizzy, am I wrong? Am I right?
Well, I think I don't. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really like guys with high endurance as relief pitchers, but I've kind of changed at least my philosophy on some of it a little bit, only because I've really started focusing on production more so than kind of what some of their, I don't know, mogul stats look like. And for McNeese, he produces. He gets the job done. I mean, he's a pretty good reliever, regardless whether he's a 46 overall endurance or not. But I think, like you said, it does put some weird scenarios in where if he uses that guy and now all of a sudden he's left with this middle reliever to close out the game and he's not who you want in there, that's a problem. And so I like the production. I guess bottom line is I look more production now, but I think what's worse is if you put starting pitchers in some of those roles. I think if you can stay away from that, you're going to be far better off. I don't, like you said, I don't like what Mogul does when you put guys, starting pitchers who have 70 endurance at any of the relief roles. I found more times than not you just get just rolled. I just don't like the way Mogul uses it. So I guess
I'll say that just looking through their stats right now, just looking at the next 3 relievers for the Brewers, Thomason, Correa, and Elwell, they have 10 blown saves between the 3 of them. Now, yes, you can get a blown save, really odd situations. If it's 7th inning and you had the lead and you gave it up, you blew the save. Those will happen. But the fact that they're getting those blown saves as well as the save as a save opportunities is a problem, because I want my best pitcher or my best reliever pitching in the 9th inning. I don't want my 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th best guy. I want the top dog pitching. And that's why I set the guy as a closer. I didn't set Elwell as my closer because I wouldn't have closed games out. For example, if I'm the Brewer.
Yeah, and even though some of those guys, and you just mentioned 3 guys, they're all starting pitchers, and Milwaukee's in a pitcher's park, so a lot of those stats I think are going to be inflated just because of the way they're situated. But I agree. I just starting pitchers as relievers. That's another. I would call that another I'd probably go as far as to say that's a cheeky tanking. That's another. You could add that to the tanking list potentially with starting pitchers. I know people will just argue with me on that, but I just don't think it's a good strategy, and it's another way of losing some games.
Yeah,
Mizzy.
I'm not a big fan of the high endurance guys. I've tried it in the past. I've done a lot of things like that. It never works out for me. I prefer my closers to be that 19 to 20 endurance, somewhere in that range, and for them to be closers. I've had starting pitchers as closers for a long time. It doesn't work. You know, they don't get low enough. They don't do what they're supposed to do. I'm just not a fan. I think it's crap. I think that starters should be starters, relievers should be relievers, and that I want a guy closing my game. I want him to have a low endurance. That's just
Yeah,
me.
but I'm going to badger you a little bit here, Mizzy, because I think you kind of do have some of those higher endurance guys. You have
Oh, I have a ton of
Varias
them, but not as my closer.
and Stinnett. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
That-
have a ton, and I try
Right.
I try to keep them in my middle and long relief. It doesn't always work that way, but I always try to keep them in my long relief. Oh, I have a use for them, absolutely. Not my closer role.
Okay, I can get down with that. It's just like, I've had I have Corey Olson. He's a little higher endurance guy. Now he was a true reliever on draft day. Didn't really like him having that high of endurance, but whatever, you just roll with it. Yeah, it's not something you'd like to have. And I guess it's weird too, because like with some guys' pens, Mogul just uses them the way that you think that they should be used, but other people's it just doesn't. I haven't seen the comment we have here that you'd rather get 3 innings from McNeese than Correa. Oh yeah, certainly, obviously, there's no question. But it's the time of when you get those 3 innings. If I'm gonna get 3 innings, I'd rather the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning rather than 6th, 7th, 8th. That's the issue with it, is that you don't know when Mogul's gonna pull this guy and say, now's your time, even though you're the closer or the setup guy. Or, hey, your short reliever who has 52 endurance, hey, he's good to go, so let's keep him going. And then a walk, and then Mogul's like, okay, it's not that bad. A single, okay, now maybe we're thinking of getting the actual closer in the game, and then whap, 3-run home run. Then after that, game's over. Well, so we'll move on to the draft process. Now, this will be a little fun topic here after a topic where there's going to be some people who on both sides of on whether you are going to use a 40s endurance closer or whether you want to stick to the traditional 20s. So the draft process. I think this is one where I might kick it to one of you guys first just to see. So again, the whole objective here is kind of maybe just talk about, I guess, first, what do you do for like when the first free agent file comes out to draft day? Are you looking at the file? Are you not looking at the file? Getting some names, not, and then after that, I think we'll go towards maybe what you look at in various player builds and all that kind of stuff. So let's kick it over to Mizzy.
I have a very long and very hard process in which I draft. I use a multi-tiered method. I start my drafting on as soon as the file comes out. As soon as the file comes out, I get a good look. And after that, I keep looking every sim based on guys that I've already targeted, based on when their birthdays are. I re-scout them after their birthdays if they have birthdays, and then continue to do that through Sim 4. So I have my method that I use. I start that as soon as the file comes out for free agency. I redo it again after Sim 4 when it's all finalized. So I use kind of a multi-tiered draft strategy. Um, and part of that is just the old-fashioned scouting. Scout the shit out of the guys, look for builds that I want to see, and then see how they're doing in the amateur stats, how their stats look, how their vitals look, and then I go from there. And then, do that all as soon as the file comes out, and then redo it based on how Sim4 hits, based on drops, based on jumps. There's certain guys that I like to see jump, certain guys that if they jump too much, I lose a little bit of interest in them, honestly. So, and a lot of that just too goes based on, things that have worked in the past and things that haven't. So I have a lot of historical, I don't want to say knowledge because that makes me sound smart and I'm not smart, but historical things that I do to determine whether I think I want certain guys over other guys.
Now, does that have to do anything to do with the time and tested picture theory?
I do not use picture theory. There was a time, once upon a time, that I watched picture theory and sought to see if there was any credence to it. I don't believe in picture theory.
Oh, you did have a picture theory player in your roster for a little bit.
I
Guess
probably
there's
have had a
that.
I've probably had a bunch, but that's not because I like their picture or they're pretty. It's just because I like the player. So, um,
You shouldn't upset J-Main like that.
is he even in the chat? Oh shit, he's in the chat.
Yeah,
He'll
yeah,
he'll
you're
he,
pissing him off right now, I'm sure.
he'll fucking fix it in post. Yep. See, edit it
Yep,
out. He's
yep.
on top of it.
Yes,
He
you're
knows what's going with
done.
the fuck on. He's gonna edit
Yep.
that shit out
Picture
quick. But
theory
now,
is real, and if you don't believe it, and
to be fair, if I'm between two different guys, like if I have two guys on my list and I'm kind of high on both, and I'm not sure which one I want to take, I'll take the guy at the picture. Sure.
see, I figured. There's still a little bit of percentage value in that.
Th-
Might not
th-
be
There,
high
there's a
anymore,
little
but
bit, but
there's a little bit.
it's not like, oh, here's a picture, I'm going to take him over everybody else. But if I'm between two guys and one guy's a picture and the picture looks vaguely familiar, then fuck it, I'll take my chances. But
Oh yeah,
I'm
no, because that's where I
who
was with Rob Pridgeon. Hey, he
hmm,
had that Ross Holland in picture, so fuck it, second round, let's go.
yeah, no, I've done that numerous times. For a while there, I really bought into the picture theory, and so like 3 years after Dan Vines retired, Dan Vines' picture popped back up. I'm like, I'm all over this guy. Didn't draft him high, don't get me wrong. He wasn't a good looking guy, but he had a similar build and he had the picture. So I took him in the fourth round or whatever, and he was just a crap. And don't get me wrong, I understand the picture theory is not it all the time, every time, but I'm not. I'll take picture guys, sure, but I don't bet my life on them.
Gilly, after all the picture theory talk, can you even top that? Add anything to that?
No, because I've been all over the board when it comes to how do I want to do my scouting. So I'm like you. I wait till after Sim 4. I do have a spreadsheet that has all my players, basically where I see them in 1 to 3 years, 3 to 6 years, kind of thing. Are they? And I look at my roster and I kind of try to determine, are they guys I want to keep around? Do I want to trade? So it kind of at least gives me an idea of where my gaps are. But I don't typically draft for, like if I really need a shortstop, I'm not gonna go draft 5 shortstops. I'm gonna try to. I'm drafting now for the best talent at the time when the pick comes up.
Drafting for a particular position is a sucker's bet every year.
Yeah, don't do it, guys.
No, do it. Absolutely, do it. Do it. Do it.
Yeah, so Mizzy can pick better
Especially
players.
catchers.
Yeah. So I had a spreadsheet where I would go through and I created all these complex formulas in the spreadsheet, and I tried that for a while, and that didn't necessarily warrant or succeed in any way. Then I started writing some code to actually import all the players and do a bunch of analysis and whatever that takes time, and that's not fully vetted yet. But I'm still working on that piece. But right now, I just do the time and trusted thing where I go through each individual player and kind of I first do an initial sorting, and then I start putting them into groups. Round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4 guys, and then I start moving them based upon kind of the eye test, what I look at them and how they're doing, and that's kind of the way I've been doing it. I have been spending more time on pitchers, some drafts, and then some other drafts I'll only spend time. If you look at my draft history, um, there have been drafts where I only take pitchers or I only take hitters. And so and merely just for the fact that I don't have a lot of time. So I want to spend as much time as I do have trying to scout as much as I can. So I don't know. I think we've gotten to the point where everybody's drafting so well for the most part that it's tough to not, if you think your guy's going to be going in the second round, you better take him in the first because everybody else is thinking like you anymore. And they're looking to pick those guys up. So unless you're Peter and you're picking guys in the fourth, fifth, and sixth round, and you know that they're going to become, first round quality guys, which I'm still trying to figure out how that works. Still looking for that one little stat that Peter uses that.
Oh, that's an easy one.
Oh, if you have the secret, I'm all ears.
Not telling you.
Okay, you don't.
I
You'll
know.
tell me after the pod. So
Probably.
yeah. But I normally just draft as young a player as I can get. I like the young players as missing those.
No shit.
We all know you like 17-year.
17's pretty good quality.
She's sexy and she's 17. Yep, we know.
Just like the
yeah,
winger
but
says.
the whole Peter thing, that's more of like take a guy who, if he has a good jump, you can make someone believe he's first round talent rather than he's actually first round talent. We've seen that with our I don't know. He's not here anymore, but he is kind of here anymore. Do you call him deceased, not deceased? Toronto GM who took one of that I don't think any of us would touch with a 10 feet foot pole. But so, anyways, my process, kind of like Gilly already said, yeah, I don't really look at the file too much until Sim 4. Now, if I have an early pick, yeah, I'm looking at it right out of the gates to see who might be the guy that I would be taking. To kind of get a gauge. Something I feel confident on, something I might want to trade out on, or just what's going on. Because again, big thing that I do think about is don't be the dick that delays the draft on that Thursday to Sunday period. Don't delay it unless something really real comes up. Something real comes up, we get it. Delay it, whatever. But now you've got to pick. Don't go. Oh, you haven't scouted yet. Don't be that guy. You've had the opportunity to scout. Look at it. But yeah, for the most part, I just don't really look much until Sim 4. And it seems like every so often someone comes to me with a real early pick. Hey, what do you think about this guy? My reaction is, well, he's available in the draft. Other than that, I have no idea who you're talking about. Not that I, don't mind giving someone my honest opinion, but just in general, I don't look at it. But so for my process, after I do scout, it's kind of weeding out the builds that I don't like. There's some builds like the typical guy who has 53 control, 67 movement. Nope, not a guy that I want. That guy, his control is not going to develop. Do not want him. Cross him off, burn him with fire. If Andy somehow drafts him for me from a list or whatnot, yeah, I'm gonna be mad because there's no way that he's ever gonna be on a list or any draft process for me. And then also it's then going through some builds that I would think might have a real high failure rate. There are some out there, or some that just I wouldn't say that I wouldn't cross them off my list, but there are some builds that I would say that they need the perfect progression in order to be good. And it's kind of like it's like the risk type thing, you want to take the risk or not. There are some builds that, yeah, sure, go for it. Take the risk. But the guy that it's like the Jacob Beisel build. If you guys remember that now, this is really dating back to the JHC era. Still looking for a computer, but look at that guy. Just a guy that I saw on draft day, and I hated it because he was a guy yeah, if he doesn't peak out anything higher than a 93, he's not going to be good. He peaks out 93, 94, and he's pretty. I mean, he's a pretty good player, but I think if a guy like that peaks out at like 88 or 90, it's not going to be good at all because just everything has to go right for that contact to get to where it needs if it's a hitter, or the control needs to get to where it needs to get for a pitcher. For me, I will take many different build types. I don't really say I don't like power pitchers. I don't like uh, ground ball artists. I like them all if I think that they can be successful. I even hated on the high control, lower movement guys. Well, many years ago, when Canada Mike and Kansas City drafted that shit, what was that guy's name? Like Sean Marin, Seth Marin, whatever his name was. He was a guy who would fit the bill that I said do not take, but there's nothing in his profile with the low home runs that I said yes, he's a guy who I would take, a guy who I was actually getting ready to take, but Mike took him a couple picks in front of me. And then again, kind of like I touched on about the risk versus reward, there's a difference in simply hoping a player develops better than he's advertised. You see a guy who has, he's a 50, 85, and you take him the first round. Obviously, you're not thinking that he's just going to develop in 85. You see some actual logic behind the fact that he can develop better, that he can develop into a 90. And that's the thing with my scouting file that I reference a lot. I don't see that as an end all be all, because I even know that there are some aspects to it that it doesn't do well, but that's just kind of the nature of how the file is and how it sees the numbers and projects them. So there's something that go, yeah, that's not really, I don't really believe that he's going to develop like that. So there's a little bit of leeway in that, and where I see different things happening. Now, the last thing that I'll touch on is the late round picks. Now, for the late picks, don't throw those picks away. Hey, Dan, you listening?
Don't listen,
I know
Dan.
you do love to throw those picks away for your comp guys, which sometimes there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes there are guys in value to add where you can flip them. But when there's not, when it's the 11th hour on the trade deadline and you still haven't moved the guy, and you just wasted a pick, because sometimes those picks can be turned into some pretty decent players. Here's just a few of mine that have been drafted in the 5th and 6th round in the recent years: Chris Kettlewell, Lance Wilson, Aaron Jordan. I think Dan knows that guy very well right now. Frank Crawford, Corey Olson, and Luis Zamora. Now, again, you're not always going to get great picks out of this. Most of them, yeah, they're probably going to fail. And even the ones that quote unquote succeed, they're not going to be big difference makers. But even if you get a guy who's a platoon guy, a fifth starter, a bullpen guy, whatever, is something who had some value, there's still something there. And every once in a while, you get a guy like Aaron Jordan, who I was able to put into a big piece of a trade, and Mizzy was then able to flip him in a big piece of a trade. Or as I get Corey Olson, who I think could be a solid bullpen arm for me. All reasons why I just don't throw those picks away. So now back to what you look in the build, Mizzy.
So I obviously have types of builds that I like for pitchers, types of builds that I look for hitters, and then guys that I hope become defenders. I mean, honestly, I have about 3 different pitchers builds that I love. Maybe more if I actually sat down and went back through the file and looked at them. And every now and again, it depends on which one I'm in love with the most. Like right now, there is a certain build that I'm a little bit more enamored with at the moment than some of the other builds. But that switches time to time. I don't mind the control movement builds. I mean, everybody thinks that I hate them. I don't hate them. Are they my favorite build? No, maybe not. I mean, I know everybody loves them. But they're not. Everybody thinks I'm only a power build guy. I'm not just a power build guy. I mean, I have a guy on my team right now that's the exact opposite of that in Wiedenmeyer. It really just depends on the player. Certain players and certain builds I like. Certain builds I think work better in my park than others. And I think for me that is one of the big things is that it's park related. Power pitchers work in my park. So I tend to go with power pitchers a little bit more because they tend to do better in my park than they do in others. Lefties as well. Lefties tend to do better pitching in Seattle than they do in other places. There's been plenty of lefty that have been on teams that have not been great, and then they've come to Seattle and looked a lot better. And no matter how good they look in Seattle, people still would not want to trade for them, and even if their hair was on fire. So it's one of those things. But there's three builds. There's the ace build, which we don't see that often. And they're harder to find. And then there's the control movement build. There's the power pitcher build, and then there's the other build, the one that I'm currently most enamored with. So as far as pitchers go, that's kind of what I'm looking at, and a lot of that depends on stats, amateur stats, home run totals, ERA, OBA, all of those stats that most of us look at. I look at all of them. Some of them are more important than others, clearly, but I do all that. Then for hitters, obviously, there are certain vitals, certain hitter stats. Do I want? Do I want the speed contact guy? Sure. Are they ever available where I'm picking? No. So I just tend to pick whatever else is there. And as far as later in the draft, there is definitely a later in the draft option that I'm always all after. And that is that control I build. I'll take those round 3 and all. I'll take nothing but them and be perfectly happy with my draft.
Anything for the position guys that you look for?
And position guys, I'm like Dan. I like a good defender. But again, where I've been picking for the last decade, I generally don't get a chance to get a good defender. So I just take the best available player as I see him. I think that's what makes me a little bit different from some of the other GMs out there. Gilly just said a little while ago, he goes, maybe all pitchers are all hitters depending on the draft, just based on what he can or can't do. I have I just take the best player available. That's just who I go for. So I mean, and so far it's worked out relatively well for me. I mean, Kipnis, for example, I think I picked like 28th or 32nd, somewhere in that range, and he's had a hell of a career. So I mean,
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
I
For all
remember.
those guys I picked like that, I've picked worse guys earlier. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I try to pick the best player available, regardless of even if I don't think they have a position. Kipnis, sure, I tried him at third base for a little bit. He's terrible there. I tried him at first base. He's okay there, but I take what I can get and draft the best player that's available. Pitcher or hitter, doesn't matter. If I think they're going to be good, I'm going to take them, and I'm going to play them. And then people are going to think that I'm good at something I'm not good at.
Now Goodness is funny because I know you seem to get really frustrated with your draft projections or uh projections on whatever you would really call it, but you had him going to me in that draft, and almost just out of spite, I didn't take him. I'd say almost out of spite, just because it wasn't completely out of spite. It was the fact of I know I had kind of a handful of first baseman DH types that I was kind of higher on, so I wasn't gonna take another one just to be another guy, just to be another guy who's like that. Eventually, you're trying to trade one of those off, and no one wants them because they're just decent. And then he turns into what he is, and I was like, well, shit. But so if all of your
That's the
draft
thing.
project,
We all have those guys that were like, they look pedantic, they look average, they look okay, and then they get drafted, and we're like, whatever, and like, nope, no skin off my back, and then they become like these really good players. We're like, God, why couldn't I have just said, yeah, he looks good, I'll take him.
right? That's
Yeah.
like with like I think Fitzgerald was one of my guys at the time where I'm like, kind of fits that mold, so I don't really want two of those. And it's kind of like it kind of goes with what you're saying, draft the best guy available, and then maybe that's what I should have done, and that's what I tend to do. I don't say I need this, so I have to take this. I will looked for certain more things in different drafts, but I kind of let the draft kind of come to me. I won't force a pick. I won't be like, I have to get a right fielder with a 90+ arm draft. I'm not gonna do that. And I think there are some people who do that or say, I have to get a pitcher with my first pick.
Yeah,
Well,
I think that you bring up a good point there, whether it's incidental or not, is that every draft I definitely look to see what it's heavy in. Is it heavy in catchers? Is it heavy in pitchers? Is it heavy in those bats that I love that most of the people are like, I don't really need one. I already have 6 of them. And then I kind of also scout based on that a little bit. So, if I'm scouting a draft and it's really heavy in power hitting first baseman, I'm going to scout heavy power hitting first baseman. I might not even take the best one there, just because I know that there's a lot of them. Is a deep draft for that position. I'll pick another one early on where I should take one because I know I'll get one decent or just as good or close to as good another round. So I think that that's another thing. It's just, I definitely scout like this last draft. It was very heavy in left-handed pitchers.
yeah,
I don't think
I
I took
think
a left-handed. I didn't take a left-handed pitcher. Everybody thought I was going to take 7 of them because I love left-handed pitchers. Did not. Ah, shit.
oh right, yeah. I mean, definitely, and it's like like I've said, I think people let good bats fall way too late. But on the same coin, I also do think if they're a first baseman, if they're not a starter, they're kind of worthless to me. I'm not going to keep a first baseman on my bench. They don't play enough positions. On my bench, I want 2 outfielders, catcher, and 2 actual infielders, basically being a third baseman who can play first base or 2 actual infielders who one can play first base. That's what I want. I don't want a first baseman who can't do anything else. That's kind of a wasted spot on the bench. But, I lost one of my other points about the draft and where things go. Oh, so
That's because I
let's see.
started wandering.
You did. No, but that's not bad. Thoughts are thoughts. Oh yeah. So as I've kind of talked about on the pods before, I do like guys who have aged before the draft. That's no secret. It's because I know what they're gonna do. I know, hey, if this guy dropped 2 points, 3 points, I have a pretty good idea of how many years he will have to develop. Because Mogul kind of follows, like, I guess you would say, like a linear path. It's a guy's not going to drop. A guy won't drop 2 points 1 year, 5 points the next, and 6 after that, and then 8 points and 2 points. That's not going to happen. You might have like a 2 to 3 to 4, something of that kind of nature. But in general, if a guy drops 2 points, it'd be like 2 3 2 3 2 3 2 3, or 3 4 3 4 4. That generally what's going to happen. So if I see a guy who I know, hey, he's going to have time to develop, that's the guy that I'm eyeing, because it's much better than when you take this guy who's like a 55, 85, we'll say. You think, oh, that guy has a lot of upside, and all of a sudden when he ages in August, that guy drops like 6 points, and you just think, well, shit. I'm really glad I wasted my first round pick on that. Well, at the same point, there is the risk in that you can have an Ian Sutton type. That's a guy who probably many don't know who he is because he wasn't anything. He was the guy who
Oh,
I
he
took
wasn't bad. You tried to
because
trade him for years. I know exactly who he was.
it wasn't bad. Tried to train for years. No, he was not good at all. But let's see.
He was
Let's
a
look at
comp B, wasn't he?
I probably returned if he was.
Well, he was definitely
He wasn't very
returned.
good. No, maybe did I? He went to L.A. for a little bit.
That
I
sounds
see
right.
now.
I was gonna say, I'd swear some you got the Dan
No, I
effect.
traded him. No, I
Oh,
traded
see,
him to
here I am
LA.
thinking. Here I am thinking you
They
had the
got him
Dan
back.
effect.
Nope. It's a
Everyone
guy
makes fun
who
of Dan for picking up
I
free
had
agents.
I had higher hopes for, and I guess not completely useless. 4.39 career ERA, not
I've
terrible,
had worse.
but when he's a top 5 pick, was he? I think it was a top 5 pick. Yep, number 5 overall. You expect better. And he was a guy who I took him because of that low, the low peak drop. Now the problem with that is, he was like 21 or 22 when I drafted him. Again, I guess for me, sometimes age doesn't matter. It's all relative of how long you think they're going to have to develop. Because I know Andy has said this, and yeah, there is logic to it. It's not that I don't use it, but an older guy, a college guy, generally doesn't have as much time to develop. Much truth in that. Not knocking that at all. Effective because so he was a 20-year-old. He was a high school guy, whatever. I knew he had a long time to develop. I don't think he peaked out until about 28. Problem is, he wasn't really useful in the majors until about 27. So sometimes that's kind of the risk that you take of that. A guy who has a long time to develop because his peak drops very little, he also doesn't progress very much. I think with Seton, he did have a little bit of setbacks and drops while he was developing, and that just kind of exacerbates the problem of jump very much and have any type of a setback. You'll have that, but always the guy who I had higher hopes for was just never that guy. You can kind of have that with those guys, but sometimes they can really blossom into something great. The late rounders, that's something I think some people just piss away because whatever, it doesn't matter. I think in the late rounders, there's almost 2 points of what I think you got to do. You got to take the whole Andy approach where what he says is find out what he does good and go for it. Um, if he can play defense, cool. You hope that the offense comes around. For the other side of the coin would be for me is where I think I've been relatively successful with the late round picks is find guys who have upside, legitimate upside that you think can actually develop into something. That's where I've gotten a Corey Olson. It's where I've got a Frank Crawford. Frank Crawford is a great example of a guy who I thought, okay, yeah, his defense is solid. His contact didn't look like much on draft day. Contact isn't anything great now, but it really didn't look anything much on draft day. I knew he could play defense and he had a decent eye. So I thought based on his build, it's gonna be more contact than power. Contact should shoot up there. The eye's okay enough. If nothing else, he's a fourth outfielder for me. And that's exactly what he is. Instead of myself having to go out into free agency and try to find that, I have that via the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a very valid point. That I like the idea of late rounds. Pick something they can use. Again, there's a reason why I always pick power eye guys. You could typically find a place for them. Peter has made a living off of finding a place for them in other teams. So I know I have, without giving away my strategy, which I'm not going to do, not that it's a big secret strategy, but there are certain builds that I look for in certain rounds. So, in rounds 2 through 4, there's a certain build that I look for. And in rounds 5 and 6, there's a certain build that I look for. And that one's not a secret. I've said it a bunch of times now. It's the power eye build. There's different builds that I look for in rounds 2 for 3. And then in the first round, I take best available. Generally, second round, depending on where I pick, best available as well. But I'm more apt to go for certain builds in those rounds, depending on who's there. Obviously, I think a lot in the second round as well. Especially recently, I've noticed we're getting guys in the second round that are probably first round picks that people poo poo for whatever reason, and then they turn into pretty good players. And people are always like, "How'd that happen?" Like you ignored them. You didn't think they were going to be any good. There was some reason why you didn't like them, so you didn't pick them, and then they became good. That's on you. So, and then those guys that I love in the second round because they're guys that would have been first round talent, but they suck for some reason, so everybody doesn't want them, and everybody drops them, and then they get traded as a major piece in a crap trade. So that stuff
So
happens too.
I am interested. You say different builds, you look for different rounds. I guess for me, you don't want to give away your secrets. Whatever. I'm trying to give away a little bit of my secrets.
I've not given away my best secret, even though it would have been easier to do so, since basically you and Gilly have the same secret. But Gilly has a different secret.
That makes me feel a little worse. So I need to reevaluate my entire draft process now.
Please don't.
But so that means blow up my scout file and never give you any more updates on that.
That's fine. I'll just use the one that I have.
Yeah, I know. I haven't given you updates in like 10 years. Then I kind of pointed the fact that there was one recently. Then,
yeah, well,
that was fun. I did have a lot of fun with that.
Oh, I bet you. I know you were. Yeah. And then I was like, oh crap! I have to redo my whole damn file.
Yeah,
it changed things a little bit, but the guys I was scouting were about the same in each file, so it wasn't a big deal for me.
Yeah, so there's a lot of bit inside jokes. So I was just playing that one. So of course, I have the scout file. I gave it to Mizzy, literally probably years ago. And pretty much about every draft season, he's getting at me, trying to say, "Hey, you wanna send me the updated version?" Because he knows I have an updated version.
Yeah, you kept telling me I had an updated version. I'm like, fine, send me the updated one.
No, and every year I kind of give him a little bit of, "Hey, so what's your top 5?" Oh, okay. Well, this is my top 5, and son of a bitch, give me the updated version. Well, I don't. And then I kind of pointed out to him where, a lot of times when I post my draft reviews, I do post my scout file, and there was one I actually did finally finish recently. And, kind of put one and one together, finally figure out that when I finished, I put my recent scout file up, so he was able to get like version 3.2, and I'm on like 5.3 now.
Yep.
And then just to go over a little bit, so I do apologize to you people who get very, very pissed off at my draft grades. That I no longer do them. You can't get pissed off at me. But I don't do them because, well, we do the post-draft pod, so there's just not much of a reason to do those when I've already talked about them. Whenever I'm not on that, sure, I'll do it. But other than that, there's just not much of a point. So we'll move on to the trade deadline.
A lot of good nuggets in here.
Yes. So it's not just the literal deadline, but since the draft, and teams that have been adding for the playoff runs, some of the big deals, the best deals, maybe some teams that should have made some deals. So I kind of went in a reverse order when I saw them. The first deal was Chicago and the Angels. Oh, the White Sox and the Angels. And it was Chicago's first and Seattle's first to the Angels for starting pitcher. What'd you think about that one, Mizzy?
I immediately messaged Dan after that was posted and said, "Hey, look, you fleeced somebody." I found it other hill, and now everybody's gonna get mad at me for that, and Mike probably especially. But I understand that he's going all in for this one last run, and he swears he's gonna rebuild in the offseason. And maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I even told Dan, like, I'm a big fan of Tillman. I've liked Tillman for a while. I was toying with getting him before Dan did. Then Dan jumped the gun and got him on me from Houston, and I was just a little bit sad because I did like the build a little bit. Not my favorite build, but I did like it. And good Lord, that dude had a drop this year, like a pretty decent drop. So the fact that that many picks in the first round were given up for a guy with that big a drop, just I hate to say reeks of desperation, but kind of reeks of desperation to me a little bit. Like, watching you make all your moves, and just gets a little scared and just goes all in. And it's just like the other move that he made right after that too. He picked up another pitcher with a big drop. I don't think he even paid a decent looking young pitcher for him too. Like, it just seems like a couple of desperation moves for a team that's not pitching bad. Like, he could have stayed as is, probably still made the playoffs and had just a good chance. Instead, went all in with all of his stuff, and I don't think it necessarily made him any better. And I don't think he's going to get better than what he paid in for those two guys in the offseason if he turns to flip them. So that was my opinion on the two Chicago deals. They seemed a little desperate to me.
Now, see, I do agree with much with what you say, but I do think it does make him better right now. The point is, is the cost worth it? And that's where it's kind of laugh. Because, yeah, Tillman did have a bit of a drop this year, but I went back a couple years and realized he had a drop before this too. It wasn't much. Neither of these drops were very much.
Didn't he drop 4
But
points this year?
no, he was like a 92 a couple years ago, dropped to 91, and now he's a 90, right?
Oh, it was a 2-point drop? Okay, I thought it was a 4-point drop for some reason.
It was just a 1 point. No, it was a 1 point drop, but it, because how Mogul will do the charts. If you drop, basically, once you're an age and you drop, you show a 91. Then you drop the same age, you're a 90, so now it'll show you the 90. You have
Okay.
two drops in the same age year, and it'll say that those all happened the same year. It really didn't.
I got you. So
So,
I didn't read that closely to it, so I thought it was just one bigger drop
right? No, but yeah, he had two different drops.
in the same year.
Probably the second one being the most telling of where the health dropped as well. Really suggests that it is actually decline. It could
Yep.
not be. Not gonna say that I know that that it is decline, not knowing that, but based on the evidence, it looks like it is an actual decline.
At 28.
It just kind of it kind of reminds me a little bit of a Brandt Couture. That is a very, very, very deep reference. But another guy who was on the top of his game started dropping. I saw him started dropping. Tried to make a trade, it wasn't good enough. Got vetoed, whatever. I really do not hold grudges, honestly. I honestly don't. No sarcasm in that at all. I just like referencing it because I was right. The guy died relatively quickly after that because as soon as you start dropping, you don't know how quickly it's going to all fall apart. You really don't. And with a build like him being more of a control build rather than a movement build or even being like a 1-for-1 build, that's just a guy who honestly I'm excited to see him come in my division. Because this year, yeah, it might suck. Or it might not. I don't know. But in the future, I will really like it, I think. And I do know that I can see in his last few starts, they've not been near as good as what he's been for the rest of the season. His starts in August have been pretty much crap, aside from like starts. Even you see his last 10, even with the help from his really good starts in July, he has a 3.52 ERA and a 2.78 opponent's batting average. Those are things that match up to a guy who has movement that is 5 points behind control. So, good starter now, possibly. But I think Dan made a very, very good trade. I think next season, yeah, you probably still could have gotten Type A out of him. Probably pretty easily. But instead, you get 2 picks that are easily better than Type A. And that's where this is a real big win for the Angels.
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, you add two, even if they're going to be the two of the last 5 picks in the first round. That's still 2 first round picks for a guy that honestly, most drafts, most years gets 1.
Most years get 1. Oh yeah, because if they're. But the thing is that he does have another year of control. So and just in
Uh,
the whole interesting things of where value comes in and all of that. You do get another year out of him. So that is some value, but is it worth another first round pick? I don't believe so, but
no, I don't think so
obviously
either.
the White Sox do.
They went all in, and again, I've never had the balls to do that. So when other people do go all in, balls to the wall, I don't get mad about it. I don't think I can't do it because I don't think it makes sense long term. I'm not a big fan of the all in and then screw it, I'll rebuild for a while. No, I'd rather try to remain competitive every year. And again, not that he couldn't remain competitive with the team that he has, but he's basically signaled to everybody that he is going to rebuild this offseason. I know a lot of
Yeah,
people who will not make trades with me and other people this year because they want to be in the Falcon race. So we'll
yeah.
see.
That's also something that's funny. Well, I want to get this guy in the future. Uh, but if you could win now, why not win now? That's
Right.
kind of where
Well,
I've kind of been in the whole thing of sort of push. I mean, in a way, I'd say I'd pushing all the chips in. If the parts were there, I would, but I haven't because of whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I basically, like I pretty much told some people, hey, if you can find a deal to work this, let me know. Like with Warpreach, and one of the deals that we'll talk about, I tried to expand on it. Said, hey, puts the chips in. Pretty much, pretty much told him you probably can't make a low ball offer on this, and he just wasn't interested. So it's fine. But so just to
it's one of
say,
those things.
if you're counting on the Gilly scale, he did send me his picks, so I can decipher him a little bit to say he did give the the Dan the Dangels a plus +0.5.
That's
I
it.
tried to figure out really what his scale is because I never really figured out what it really
I'm
means.
pretty sure
Because
it's a -2 to +2 scale, but I don't actually know. No matter how many
yeah,
times
I
you and I've
don't
discussed it, I don't understand it. And
as
more
much
often than
as
not, people get either a half point or a full point, and I don't know why.
yeah. I guess I don't. He kind of just came up with this like we all know exactly what it means, and we don't. But I don't know. I guess I've personally I figured if it's a point. See, I don't get it. If it's a .5, you you won the trade, and if it's a point, and if it's a full point,
You
you've really
really
won the trade.
I would and
Which,
if I wanted to use the Gilly scale on this one, I'm giving Dan a full point.
yeah, I probably would too. But I would think the Gilly scale needs like a .25, like you slightly won it or you slightly lost it, nothing terribly gained. But that's Gilly's
Right.
thing.
Or
So
or we just use a normal scale, and just say Dan won the trade long term and probably won the
yep,
trade short term.
yeah, pretty much
I
because
understand the short like, don't get me wrong, one of Cheeto's trades, I'm not sure if we're gonna talk about it, I messaged him right away, so listen, great short-term deal, terrible long-term deal.
yeah,
And
we might. I mean, we could. We have a couple different trades to
I don't remember
talk
if it was one of the deals
about.
or not. It was definitely a deal that I messaged him. I'm just like, "Listen, love this deal for you for short term, it's a great deal for you long term. Not sure how it pans out."
So anyway, so yeah, so Gilly said, Gilly said .5 to LA. Not sure that the pitcher performs in Chicago, which I guess could be a pretty fair point. Oh damn it, American Mike, did you even read the shit that I sent you?
Um,
I guess not.
yes, but
Um,
it was like
but
2 days ago. I have it open if you want. So if you're talking
that's
about the
awesome.
deal,
So
was it the thing I just messaged you about?
yeah,
Yeah, I see the thing.
okay, yeah, but so. Yeah, exactly. Cheeto hits the nail on the head. Only one person can get him. That's the great thing about the Falcon trade. You're going to save it all up for him. How do you know that your deal is going to be the best, or your offer is going to be the best offer? You don't know that. So if you can help yourself out right now, go for it. The point is to win championships, and that's what we're playing for right now. Like, hopefully sustaining success, maybe, possibly. No, the point is, if you can get a good deal now, you go for it. Like with the Archiega deal, I fully am aware that he's in his 30s and going to decline at some point. It's probably not going to be pretty for him. But if I can push the chips in to possibly win a championship the next year or two, it's worth it. So that probably gave a little bit to that, and we will talk about the deal that you didn't know we were going to talk about: the Giants and Angels deal.
It's in your rundown. I knew we were going to talk about it. I just jumped the
Yeah.
gun a little bit.
Exactly. So good timing on that. I didn't know what we're talking about. Oh, wait, we're talking about it.
Let's be fair.
That is first baseman / DH. Yes, he's not a catcher. Let's just be honest. Butler going to
not a
the
catcher.
Angels for Vineyard and $8 million. Now, I will say this, as I think probably Dan thinks, oh, he has to be a DH. Has to be a DH. Yes, Dan, he doesn't have 93 fielding at first base. Yes, but go look at Scott Brunn. He's on the Rangers right now. He sucks ass defensive. However, first base, look at his stats. He's fine there. He's fine. Butler will be fine there too. So, for me, I can see exactly why the Giants would make this move. You know, it gets them a first baseman that you know is hitting right now. You see your chance to. I really don't know what the West is. I'm just going to assume that the Giants have this in a relative walkaway, but probably not walkaway because the whole West sucks.
I think
6.5 games up.
How
It's
many?
not a walkaway, but
6. I thought I was on that. Yeah, he should.
6.5. But unless there's a mighty collapse, he has it, and he sees it, and he sees the entire the National League the playoff picture, which is basically if somehow it should be the Nationals in the World Series for the NL. Like there's probably no question about that. All the other divisions,
other than it's mogul.
Yeah, well that's the point. Other than it's mogul, so Chino says, it's mogul. I have a decent team. Screw it, let's go for it.
Yeah, I like it.
No one's bid on Butler because Cleveland decided to go with Archiega instead of Butler. I was looking at Butler for a bit. So let's go for it. So, Vineyard, he showed the promise of being a difference maker. He's leveled off now. I think he's more of like an 800 to 825 OPS bat rather than 875 guy. Yes, Peter, I know he's an 830 something OPS right now. I don't care. I think that's probably what he's going to level off to on the year, or it's a relative guess. So yeah, again, I was targeting Butler as a plan B to Archiega. I was really close to thinking that I'm not going to swing a deal with the mighty fine and distinguished such a gentleman war priest, but I was, so I was gearing up to trade for Butler. I was fine with playing him at first base. I know he'll be fine there. But the one thing that did kind of hold me back was, even though he has that power and a decent enough contact, the eye and everything, how it all plays out, basically, I saw him basically since the 800 OPS bat. Maybe a bit better in some years, but nothing amazing. Kind of like getting myself into another Scott Brunn situation, a guy who, honestly, I'm not terribly sad of what he did. 30 home runs is pretty cool. But when you sit around and 800 OPS, I wanted a little bit better. I didn't expect those years that 1 year that he put up the Giants, but I expected better. So, well, it's not that that he's actually better than Vineyard. It's the fact that he's far less expensive and will have 6 more years of control after this season of why I think the trade favors the Angels.
Yeah, no, I messaged Cheater right away. I'm like, love the deal for your short term. and messaged Dan later, said, "I'd like the deal for you long term." Like, he got rid of a guy that I'm pretty sure he signed as a comp free agent, and he got a decent young player for it. Like, it works out for both of them. Unlike the last deal we talked about, I think both teams are happy with this in the long run.
Am I back on? 'Cause I think I
You're
just turned
back on.
myself
I hear
off.
you now. Yep.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so I think that's a deal that I mean, both GMs made it for the right reasons. I can say that wins it long term. Cheeto
Yep.
knows exactly why he makes. So the next deal is that completely weird hodgepodge trade that sends um Davis to Seattle, former Kraken, 20 million, and what I basically figure to be around about 4 million in salary relief to the Reds. So I would love to hear not only your take on this trade, Mizzy, but I would love to hear your rationale of why Cincinnati makes this deal.
Cincinnati makes this deal for a couple of reasons. First of all, they hate left-handed pitchers with a passion, to the point that there's not one. Every now and again, I'm like, I need a lefty, and then I go around like, who's available, who's online, who might trade. Oh, Theo's online. Let me see if he has a lefty for me. And then I go and look, and I go, oh right, he fucking hates lefties. Like, he legit does not have a lefty on his roster, pitching wise. And I'm pretty sure he does his very, very, very best not to keep one in his minors. Clearly, by the way this trade worked. So, for Theo, he is way over budget and is a little tight on cash. So the idea for him, I do believe, was shed some contracts, even if it doesn't save a ton this year. And then excuse me, and then add cash, shed cap, and then get rid of a spec that he's not a fan of. I'm pretty sure he was an auto draft from him this year. He was not in the draft. He got autoed from Andy. Didn't like him. Did what he could to get rid of him. And to be fair, you would have liked this deal a lot less in one of its iterations.
So basically, without you saying why you made the deal and all that, it's because you knew you fleeced him, and we can move on from that.
I wouldn't say fleeced him. I made him an offer early on, and he did not like it. And then he came back to me with another idea, and we went from there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is interesting. You know, there's some times where certain people you make a deal, you're like, yeah, this is a good deal, and then they say no, and you're like, okay, well, here's some other things that I would give up, and they say, yeah, I like that, and you think, huh, because I like the guy a lot less than what I was going to give you the first time around.
It was one of those things. He said he was available. He said, "Who likes lefties?" I said, "I like lefties." And so he private messaged me, said, "What did you get for him?" And the first thing I think I offered him was, I want to say McCracken and 10 million. And he's like, I don't really like McCracken. I'm like, okay. Like, that's fine. And so we talked about a couple other players. Couldn't really find one that we both agreed to. And then it kind of ended there. So and then he came back to me and said, "Hey, how about 20 million? And you take all these contracts too." And so we just kind of talked about it from there. Got a deal done. Wasn't a big thing.
Yeah, I can see that because we did kind of at a point make a deal for his third baseman, Chris Moore. And he was going to ask me because I asked him about him, I don't know, a long fucking time ago that I like Chris Moore. He asked me about, hey, still like him? And I said, yeah. I threw a number that's basically you pay off the entire salary, I'll take him off your hands. And he said, okay. So sure, I posted it. And after that, I'm like, this is kind of stupid. I'll give him the chance of telling you, to be honest, for as much cash as you were giving me, you could have bought him out for even cheaper. So eventually we agreed on just to delete the trade and release him. So For me, it was just
That sounds familiar because again, the trade that we actually agreed to was a little bit different than the one we posted. And then as I was posting, he's like, "Can we just do this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we can do that instead." Like it wasn't a
well,
big deal to me. So
well, yeah, because you got a pretty much steal of a deal, I think, because well, again, the salary kind of goes into about $4 million in relief in it, but you were able to actually put one of those guys already into a profit. He could have done, or again, he could have just outright released and not
I wouldn't say profit, but I mean, I guess
got.
tech profit. Yeah, I just
He dumped them. That's a profit. I can guarantee you he dumped them because I said 4 million. There's no way that he could have actually, if he actually had value in it, there's no way he could have only had McCracken because it doesn't take much of a rocket scientist to figure it out that McCracken's probably going to drop 4 or 5 points when he ages because he's already done that, and the fact that he hasn't hit his window jump, so that pretty much leaves him with the next year to jump, and that's it. He's going to be what he's going to be. What that is a low 70s um, control guy. He'll have lowish. Maybe he gets a really special jump to get into that mid 80s movement guy, and then the power will be what? It'll be mid 70s somewhere. Who cares? Whatever. Maybe upper 7. Not going to change much on him. And the fact that he's probably just going to be what I have right now in Adam Little. And that's
mm,
a declining Adam Little. A guy who, yeah, hey, sure, I'll throw him a bone, put him in the long release spot, see what he can do. If he sucks, send him right back to AAA. If you okay, keep him there. Exactly what Adam Little is for me. Kind of shuttle him back and forth between AAA and the long relief role. And that's what I see McCracken being. And yeah, I get it. Davis wasn't your guy, wasn't what you wanted, but sell this low, and all this just for basically clearing a couple of contracts, some cash. Probably could have just said, screw it, I'll release all the contracts right now. Saves me a little bit of money at this point, not much, but 10%. And then just offer Davis up to the highest cash bidder in the offseason. You probably would have made out a lot better.
possibly.
Yeah, say possibly. This is because you don't want to admit that you got a steal of a deal, which is
Everybody
fine.
thinks all my deals are steals of a deal. So
Yeah, we probably do. But I do like how the new trade rule that Andy posted can really carry over for some of the other deals for Dan. That's really nice to see. Really nice to see. Everyone's like, "Oh, we got to give Dan really super sweet deals in order to get a trade." Okay, cool. Here you go. Here's 2 first-round picks for a dying pitcher.
yep, some of those people took that deal to heart. That's funny.
It is. So next up, we have not just one deal, but a group of deals, and that is the Pittsburgh Pirates deals, the J-Main trades. I really liked them. This is exactly what I preach a lot of times of if you feel that you can make an upgrade, make the upgrade. Doesn't matter if it's on the bench in your starting lineup, rotation, bullpen, or even just depth deals. Make them. If you can make your team better, do it. It obviously has to make sense, but I know some people, I'm talking trades. I'm good with my third baseman. And what do you see on playoff night? Oh, my third baseman got hurt. Oh crap, I'm really screwed now. Yeah, well, if you took the guy that I was trying to offer you for, a couple bucks, a nominal prospect, you wouldn't be in that situation. And I think that's what J-Main did. He mostly, I think he just bought guys with cash. I know maybe a deal or two gave up something of a prospect, but it was probably nothing that mattered much. It was basically a point of teams clear some salary, which matters now with the tightened budget and
Yep.
finances. But he got what he got, some depth. I know he got, at least I remember the one guy was Ballum from the Rangers, the old Cincinnati Reds pitcher. He's probably a shell of himself now, judging by the rating that was posted. But hey, could be a guy who could help. Doesn't have to be a rotation guy. Could be a long relief guy, a bullpen guy. It helps. Mizzy.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of y'all do this every year. You get these upgrades for next to nothing, or cash and stuff, and it's never a bad idea. Honestly, I don't tend to do that myself, just because I tend to carry more guys than I need on my active roster. I tend to either keep guys that I drafted or trade for guys early, and just stash them in quad A or even single A at times. Um, and so, generally speaking, I always have plenty of depth. I mean, I lost both my second baseman and third baseman in back-to-back sims because Andy hates me, and I had plenty of depth in my majors and minors that I didn't actually need to make any trades to rectify that situation. So, but when you find yourself in a chase that you weren't expecting to be in, it's great to be able to just do what you need to do and add a couple of those guys for next to nothing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's a deal that I don't think we're gonna talk about because it's not that big of a deal. But the deal I made with the White Sox, I traded a couple of nominal prospects for Derek O'Reilly, really good defensive third baseman.
In the home of O'Reilly's auto bump parts too,
I know, which is not Callahan Auto, which is based right here in Sandusky, Ohio.
which is a much better auto group. I'm well aware.
Because it had the Tommy Callahan name to it.
Yep.
But, you know, basically with the cash involved, I had more than his salary paid. And basically, I got the value of one of the prospects that I wanted in cash. So, sure, I'll give up on the other prospects that I'm not really high on to get a guy to sit on my bench for the next few sims. And should my third baseman get injured, I can plug him in. That's exactly the thinking of it. And that's the thing I think there's a lot of, like a lot of teams just think you've got to make that star-studded, acquisition. You don't have to.
You don't. You need to
would
make
love to.
smart deals.
But you don't want to be in the playoffs and realize that your pants are pulled down because you don't have a guy to legitimately put in this position because the one or two guys that you had for that are dead. You don't want that. So get extra depth. Get something where you can feel confident about hey, if I have an injury, yeah, I'm not happy about putting this guy here, but it's better than not having a guy at all.
Yeah.
And
Again, I tend to keep a lot of those guys in my back pocket, just because injuries happen. Good Lord. I literally was the MASH unit this year. I don't think I've had a single sim since Sim 1 where all my initial starters were healthy. I've had a horrible, horrible year with injuries. One of the worst that I've had in recent memory.
yeah, I think it's great that we're where we are now because I know some years ago I suggested Andy, like why are injuries the way they are? Because we've dropped injuries. Injuries are basically whatever mogul like presets plus 0, which is you have season-ending injuries, couple month injuries, like pretty much every sim. If you evaded a long-term injury, you did pretty good. And basically, what I told him was, in real life, you have like that day-to-day maneuvering of your roster, whereas we don't because we sim 2 weeks straight. So it makes sense to not be as crazy, as crazy with the injuries, but still they still affect us enough because you have a guy that you really want, key player, and he goes down for 3 or 4 weeks. It's still really felt.
Oh yeah. Again, Andy keeps doing it to me. I don't know what I did to Andy, and I keep apologizing. But I mean, good Lord, he put my second baseman down for 6 months. Second baseman having a career year, 6-month injury, and then the third baseman that I traded for, he keeps putting down for 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks this time. Like, it's just good God. Like, I cannot I cannot
Ooh.
catch a break with my injuries. So
Oh, that third baseman who's not really good. Yeah, he probably did
Yeah.
you a favor there.
yeah, there was a lot of favors done with him this year. So
So, the next trade, another group of deals. There weren't exactly one deal in particular, but we will move on to the Baltimore Orioles or the PR deal. Now, from what I saw, he made a lot of cash deals. Yeah, some he did get a little pick, maybe even a prospect for, but for the most part, they're cash deals. Now, for me, I'm a little perplexed by that. Maybe it's the tried and acquired cash for a future cash for pick deal, but to me, that's just a lot of banking on that someone's actually going to want to sell you picks for cash. That's not
eh,
guaranteed.
when he first started making all those cash deals, I was just like, why the fuck is he selling? Like, don't get me wrong, like, we're not talking about world beaters here, but we're talking about decent dudes. And he's selling them all for cash. I'm like, this doesn't make a damn bit of sense. Is he building a new stadium? Like, maybe he's building a new stadium. Like, maybe he's going in there, burning it all to the ground and building a new stadium. And then I'm thinking, like, that doesn't make any sense either, because how's he going to rebuild his roster when he's not getting anything but cash for all these guys that are decent dudes? And then I saw him yesterday on there trying to buy up every damn pick, and I'm pretty sure he PC'd everybody, offering big cash for round picks. So I think his long game, everybody's sitting there scratching their heads on it. I think his long game on it is he's getting as much cash as humanly possible, and then he is going to do his best to flip that cash for better picks next year. Somebody always wants picks for cash. If that's the way that it is. People are always willing to sell picks. So he might not get a first or second round pick for all that cash that he has, but he might buy a shitload of third, fourth, fifth, and sixth round picks. And like we were talking about earlier in this pod, it's not a bad idea to have some of those picks in those rounds. So he might end up doing quite well by just stocking up on picks, hoping for a decent draft, and getting lucky on some talent.
See, now here's where I'll say he could have probably just lowered his asking prices just a little bit, and gotten those picks right out of the gate. Maybe even a little bit of cash added in, get other picks. Because I think for some of those guys, it was like he posted the guy for this price, and he waited about 45 minutes before highly reducing the price to cash. I even asked on some couple of players, "Hey, we say this guy for cash?" Nope, not gonna sell this guy for cash. Got to be a prospect pick. Well, probably said pick, but whatever. And then a little bit later, I see a deal posted. This player for cash. I mean, good for you is more than I was going to pay cash for him, but at the same time, you seem to be extremely hard up, and I'm not taking cash for this guy, and then you take cash for this guy. And now, certainly, I'm embellishing on how quickly it happened, PRs.
You're also
Don't
probably
get
not
too uptight about it.
you're probably also not crediting how much weed was smoked during that time either. So
I mean, probably that's what it's got to be, because it was like he was like, "Hey, this guy is this price," and then you see him posted for a completely different price. Because I was on a couple of those guys for him, and it was just like, I don't think you got anywhere near the price you were quoting me on. I mean, maybe you're trying to pull a fast one on me. Sure, I get it, but at the same time, I guess joke's on you, because you got a lot less than what we're trying to get for him. So you could have just hit me with an actual price, and I might have just bought right out of the gate.
I'd have to look, but I'm pretty sure he got a plethora of picks. In his, I mean, he made a lot of cash deals, and some of the cash deals to me, well, that's the thing. I think a lot of those cash deals, he actually got a decent amount of cash for guys that I like. I didn't think he'd get that much cash for. I mean, I even asked for one of his guys a couple days ago, I think right before Christmas, and the number that he was sent back to me, I was just like, oh God, like I don't, I, it was it a fair number? Well, probably, but like I just I despise paying that much cash for a dude. Though that being said, I think I sent actually more of it along to Theo in our deal, but that's not the point. but I think he got a whole bunch of picks. Let me look here. He got 2 1 through 3s, a 2 through 3, a 2, and a 3. So I mean, he added 2 first round picks, 4 second round picks, and 4 third round picks. So I mean, he added a ton of picks for some of those guys that he traded, and a ton of cash, which he's going to then turn probably into some other picks. So I think when we're looking at this and we're all a little bit befuddled by it, I think that when we're also looking at the draft next year, we're going to realize that Baltimore has a shit ton of fucking picks.
I mean, they do, but it's also banking on that what's there is worth it.
Or, spoiler alert, Chicago actually goes into rebuild, and PR smokes a fat one and goes, fuck it, and then sends all those picks to Chicago for a bunch of big players.
Guess it could, but that's a lot of second and third round picks. Just the way Chicago works, that ain't gonna.
No, I'm well aware of the, but I'm just saying, like, he could eat with the amount of picks that he has, he could probably get theoretically 3 of those big guys over in Chicago. Mind you, a lot of the big guys in Chicago have also had drops this year, so that price is what's playing in my head as well.
So my wife just showed me a picture that what we thought was the snowman cookie. Someone texted her back saying, "You gave me a penis cookie," because yeah, it kind of does look like that. So sorry for that. Sorry if I had to tell you. I didn't really have to, but I did.
Do you want to build a snow dick?
It actually has white frosting on it, so there is
Nice.
that part to it. But here, I'm kind of stalling because I'm trying to find the trade. I'm not going to give everything away from the Cabanales trade talks that I was in on him. Good, 'cause I was kind of stalling for that a little bit.
Oh,
but,
the Cabanale one with the I know. I asked.
It went for a third and cash, and I was like,
"Don't get me started," because I asked about him too.
It was a lot higher than that. I'll just say that a lot higher.
I asked for him too because I was like, you know what, fuck it. That he's a decent looking dude. Even if I stash him on my bench, like I could play him and then get more out of him next year. Like, hey, what's the cash offer on him? Like, oh no, he's going for a second round pick. I'm like, oh, never mind then. It was a little bit more than I wanted to spend on him. He's like, no, I've got a straight offer on a second. I'm like, take it. I ain't paying for it. And then like a sib later, he goes for a third in cash. I'm just like, oh, Christ Almighty.
Yeah, third in cash. I mean, I guess it's really hoping that the Giants don't win very much in Comp B, and all comp is very low because comp is like it really is, and the Giants finish where they are. That's probably going to be a very, 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 very late third round pick, or
it'll be an early fourth.
More likely a very early fourth, like 90.
Let me look at the. I don't. We haven't had a sim yet. I don't know what the records are, but let me look.
They have a winning record, so they're going to be
not by much 20th. Though. Yeah, they'll be unless they get
you
right
around 90ish.
Yeah,
you're looking at probably realistically 88 to 95 is where that pick's going to fall. And 12 million. Yeah, sure. That puts you up a good chunk.
I could buy you a fourth, a late fourth.
Yeah, so you gave him for 2 4th-round picks. That's cool.
Let's call it a late third and a late fourth, just to be generous. It's Christmas.
Yeah, late third and late fourth. Good job. I mean, for what I was quoted for. I mean,
you and I were quoted the same thing. So
granted, as I'm saying this, I didn't have anything available to offer him at the time of the trade of the value that he went for. I'd say anything, but I didn't have those. I didn't have those picks. I probably had some prospects that could have made up that value even better. But even shortstop Jones, I was quoted for more than what he went for, a pretty good amount more. I mean, I guess it happens. Sometimes things got to change, but they just change so quickly that you're just like,
and so randomly too. No,
yeah, so random. Like,
let's not even get started. I don't have another hour to spend on this, but don't even get me started on everybody now worth a first round pick. Good Christ. That's
okay.
That's why
I guess at least PR isn't that guy.
No,
Peter's like,
that's
hey,
why I love dealing
this
with
guy's a
PR.
first round pick, and like PR's like, hey, this guy's a first round pick. Offer your fifth round pick. Okay, how about a fourth? Yeah, sure. That's kind
Yeah.
of like where PR kind of is now, right? Like right now. I guess you're right. He probably lit up a blunt and then
Which is fine. Again, none of the deals that he made, I don't think were egregious in any way. But good God, I asked for so many. I checked in on so many different players over the last 3 or 4 sims. Last 1 or 2 weeks, and everybody from guys that probably are worth it to guys that probably are borderline worth it was a first round ask. Do you have a first round pick? No. Okay, well I don't want to deal with you then. I've
Yeah.
got prospects. I've got other things. It's not like I have I don't have a mass farm. I don't have a farm devoid of all sentient life. Like, good Christ. Like, it's just, boy, it was hard to deal this deadline just because everybody expected or demanded a first above and beyond anything else. And don't get me wrong, understand that is the gold standard. And that a lot of people want first round picks. And hell, I probably asked for first round picks for some of my dues too. I get it. But holy Jesus, like not everybody's worth a first round pick. And even if they are, be willing to look at somebody's farm and see if there's a spec there that you like. And I understand that I don't carry specs that a lot of people like. That's fine. GD and I have had plenty of conversations where he's like, I don't like anybody in your farm. Okay, no worries. And we move on. Like, not a big deal. But try. Just try. Humor us.
try a little.
Just a little. Just a tip.
So
That's all I'm asking.
is Gilly actually back? Because I don't see him in the booth.
No, he's not in
Gilly's
the
back.
he's not in the booth. He's just posting memes of Olivia Munn stuffing hot dogs in her mouth.
It's not the worst.
But I'll take it.
Sure. So I guess we'll just move on till he actually comes back on the pod shit.
Well, I think we're winding down anyway. We have what, two
We have a
trades
couple
left,
more.
yours and mine.
Yeah, we have 3 to my knowledge because I sent on a different one because I added another one.
No, that's the most recent one you sent me.
Yeah, I didn't send it to you, I guess.
Well, that's why then.
So, the one would be, as you said, yours and mine. This is yours. The Seattle
Yeah.
Washington trade that sent Zinkavanaski to the Nationals for first baseman DHG. Now, I do think I like Zink more than G. I just see G being just decent to solid. I don't think I have a lot of power, and I don't see the batting average making up for that. I really don't care that he has a great eye. I like the on base percentage stuff, but in those guys, it just seems to take away from full capabilities. I think Zink's going to be a very solid pitcher, and I think could see him getting to the 90 plus control and 90 movement guy. I haven't really dove very far deep in how much more years he has to develop. You would probably know that better than me or anyone else. But just what I see from standpoint of what should happen, there should be some development left on, some meat left on the bone.
Zink's
pitcher.
Zink's a good-looking dude. Honestly, he was a guy that Hokie sold low on because he was a little bit. I'm guessing a little bit worried about the way that he was going. Had a good jump this year, and after he did, people actually started looking at him. Even though had him on the block and offered him in trades a bunch of times, and there he went. Peter came to me the last time I posted him. He's like, I want him. I'm like, all right, I'll make you a list. So I made him a list of things I liked, and he offered me Jeeves, and Jeeves was probably one of the top 2 or 3 things on that list that I liked. So the deal went down pretty quick from there. I really, I think Zink. I think you're right on Zink. I think that should easily be a 90-90 guy. And there you go, Matt. That's the one we like. He should easily be. For whatever reason, those lefty control movement guys, just I don't know. I've not had good success with them. So I do fine with lefty power pitchers. Another lefty builds with that control movement lefty edge. For whatever reason, I never get out of them what I think I should. So and I have enough young pitchers on my roster as is, and enough young lefties on my roster as is, that I was willing to move him for the right piece. And I like Jeeves. I think he's gonna be a really good bat. And I think that there's a chance that he would be an adequate third baseman. Maybe not. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe he'll be a terrible bat and have no shot at being a third baseman. I don't know. But with my slightly aging roster, um, I'll take a chance on him. I like the way that he looks, and he doesn't appear to be in his peak window yet, so he has at least a jump or two left. So I think he could end up being a quite a good bat. I think Peter said after the fact, he's like, I see him as a 90-90-90 guy. I'm like, that would be wonderful if he became that, but will he become that? God only knows.
Wait,
But
90, 90, 90?
yeah, that's what Peter
All
said. Peter's
3 being 90.
yeah,
Oof, that's
I think it's a reach. I don't get me
uh,
wrong, but
what?
I think that's a reach. That's not what I expected when I traded for him. So
The guy has 68 power right now.
yeah,
I get Peter
I'd
knows
swear
mogul.
I'd swear that's what Peter said. Maybe I am misremembering, but
He
I'd
might
swear
have
that
said
he said
90,
that in shows.
90.
Maybe he said 90. I'd swear he said triple 90s, but
If he said 90 power, someone sincerely needs to check Peter's temperature right now because he obviously has the COVID 2104.
wait, what? How much power? No, he has 66 speed.
No, 68 power.
Casey Jeeves?
No, I thought you said Zinkovsky.
No, Jeeves, not Zinkovsky. No, Zinkovsky has no shot at the power.
Okay, I was worried there for a little bit.
Yeah, no. We were I was talking about
90
Jeeves getting 90, 90,
90 power. I mean, I guess it's what he tells people all the time. I guess that makes a lot more sense coming out of Peter's mouth.
Yeah.
I feel
Okay.
better.
We're on the same page then. All right. No, he
Yeah.
said that after
Yep.
the trade. He didn't tell me that shit. He's just like, I'll trade you Jeeves for Zinc. And I looked at it, I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm good with that. So I know
But
where I think Zinc's going to be. I know where I think Jeeves is going to be. And I was fine making that trade. And also those trades like that that you're a little bit like, maybe a little bit worried about or a little bit unsure about. If they're going to the other league, I'm totally okay with it. Maybe that's just me, but I'm much more likely to do one I'm a slightly wary on if I know the player I'm sending is going to the National League instead of the American League, then there's less of a chance of biting me in the ass.
yeah, so still, even with the whole 90 power thing, I'm still caught on that one. Like, yeah, I don't see that one coming. I see him being a guy who's probably going to peak out after next year, and that's what he's got to know and why he would bail on a guy like that. Because if he thinks he could be a 90 guy, there's no way he's going to let that go. Because why would you? No. High 80s power? Oh yeah, definitely. I could see that.
And that's what I see out of it. I'm good with that. I'm
hope
good
him
with a guy that
being
gets in the 90s contact to have that big eye and mid to upper 80s power. I'm fine with
So
that.
you hope him being like the right-handed Archie
I don't think he's gonna be. I don't think he's gonna be that good.
the right-handed, which means
Oh,
he's not going to be as
I
good
know.
as for what I'm saying.
I have to compare them.
But everything's different. I'm not saying he's going to be the right. He's going to be Archiega, but the fact you have more of a contact build and a power build, that's the Archiega. Still, it's not good. But
no,
I
really like the bat.
long term.
Maybe
could be a solid bat.
Maybe it'll be interesting to see. Again, it was something that I was willing to take a chance on. So it'll either bite me in the ass or I'll look like a genius, just like every other trade.
Either of those two. So, for one of the last trades.
You start talking about your trade as people try to make live Blockbuster offers to me. So
live, damn it! I was trying to move rooms. This could be a little bit of an issue.
Nah, it's PC. Don't worry about it.
So, so one of the deals. I don't want to talk about a lot of my deals. I think I did a lot of sort of what J Main did of make some deals to improve anything possible, whether it's the bench, the lineup or the rotation, the bullpen, whatever. Go for it. But the one big deal I think just can't be overlooked is my deal with War Priest, where he sent me Archiega, $20 million in cash, the salary leave from Scott Brunn, for my first, third, and my recent first rounder, starting pitcher Leonis. So for me, I really didn't want to include my recent. I really like Leonis, but at the same time, I didn't want to miss out to lose the top-notch bat like Arciega. I know he's in his 30s. It's not a good sign. Eventually, he's going to drop, and sad. But for now, you got to go. The cash obviously helps. Maybe a buyout if I have to this final year. But for me, my mid-order bats weren't really hitting to where I thought that they would, or they would or should. So the point of getting a guy in the middle of the lineup is hitting to where I think he should, as well as that naturally just makes the lineup even deeper if those guys do eventually hit.
Yeah,
If I have to talk, if I have to talk more, this is one of those things where you see the deal, almost like a PR deal. Like you start talking about it, and like the trade price seemed so high that you're like, there's no way that I can meet this offer. To where it's almost you got to just call someone's bluff out. Like, if you're gonna get something better than that, go ahead, take it, because that's ridiculous high. And to eventually they come back to you, be like, oh, okay, well, hey, if you offer this, he's yours. And then you say, okay, yeah, sure. Because what was first kind of brought up to you is completely different than the first. So, yeah, got Arciega. He's been doing all right so far. He's probably not going to put up the big numbers like he has simply because he's not hitting in a park like Texas or Minnesota, and that's to be expected. But can't say I'm disappointed at all in what he's doing.
Yeah, I threw my hat in the arch ring. Not gonna lie, he's the type of bat that you put in Seattle, and he just puts up godlike numbers. I mean, I don't even have a place to put him, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll take him. But War Priest was really looking to get a first as kind of a cornerstone of any deal, and I was first list, so it made a deal a little bit hard. I too got an offer, this and he's yours. And it was a fair offer. Do not get me wrong. But it was not one that I was willing to do at that time. Then a couple hours later, he went to you. So I knew that there was an AL and an NL team also involved, and I was praying that he went to the NL just to make it fucking easier on me. But I knew that was probably a long shot because I assumed I knew who the NL team was, and I knew that they weren't going to pay up what was expected for him. So I assumed that he would be going to Cleveland, and that was something I just had to deal with. But I was not willing to pay what was asked of me, and again, not an unfair price, but it was one of those things. I love him. Not a huge fan of the contract or the age, but I don't think either of those things hold him back from just doing great things as he's been doing his whole career.
So, I guess to the question, did I give up too much for him?
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, based on what I'm about to send you, that's what he asked of me. So, and that's roughly about what you gave. So, I think that no, I think that what you paid and what he asked of me was roughly the same. And I think that for a guy of his ability, especially with catch attached, and the salary relief you also got from Dylan Brune, I don't think you overpaid. Not for a guy that is that talented.
All right, so I guess before we get into our one of our last deals, that's not really a big team going for it, team not going for it, selling off deals. Are there any teams that you think maybe missed out on not making trades that could have for a playoff?
Montreal. I think Montreal and I think Boston are the two teams that are probably the most obvious ones. I think that they're obviously dogfighting for the last playoff spot in the AL. Um, and a dogfight is going to be, I think they both missed the boat by not trying to do something to address their needs. And that's fine. Honestly, Boston is just coming out now. Why go all in when you don't have to? They're not clearly not a World Series contender yet. So I don't fault Fred for not doing anything at all. Gilly is trying to become a team of significance. I think he's making a great stride at doing so. Couple pieces short. He could have easily moved some things and probably addressed some needs, both short and long term, with a couple cognizant deals. The fact that he didn't um, signals two things: a, he wasn't willing to, or had some other ideas planned, or maybe he just failed negotiations. I mean, those do tend to happen. Or he just doesn't see it as his year. He sees Cleveland adding, he sees other people adding, and just says, "I'm going to make it. I'll hopefully I'll wing it on that, and then add as I have to, maybe going into the next season." But which for Gilly is probably a smart move, honestly. Slow playing a little bit, not going all in. We've seen teams. Andy was talking about the other day in trade. Some teams go all in um, at an ill opportune time, and it really fucks them in the long run. So, but I really do think they missed the boat because one of them making even a mid major kind of deal um, tries to put the foot down in that division. By neither of them doing that, I think that they're both missing out on the boat. Again, does it give them a chance to win the World Series? Probably not. Honestly, probably not. But unless they made some big deal. But I don't think there's that type of deal out there to make anymore. Um, so the other teams, I don't know. Again, Pittsburgh did some things. St. Louis isn't one for trading. Obviously, if they had found a piece that fit for them, adding that could have given them a leg up in the Central. Washington's way out. Seattle's way out. The Central and the AL is kind of set. Kind of surprised GB didn't make a big move. Not sure I'd throw him in that category because, again, I think he's just doing what he usually does. But again, Seattle, Montreal, and Boston are the two ones that I think really missed the boat. Um, Possibly St. Louis. I know Cincinnati, I didn't really add much either. They just kind of moved some things around. But again, with their cash situation, I think they did what they needed to do. It'll be fun these last couple sims to watch the central races in both leagues, and then the AL East, and then see if the NL West does anything. I mean, let's be fair. Percy's just sitting back there licking his chops, waiting to make one of those magical runs like he did a couple years ago. So, not a bad team out there in San Diego. Obviously, San Francisco's been adding, probably has a stronger team, but we'll see. I think again, trade wise, Montreal, Boston didn't do enough. But there's some fun races to watch. I know that's not quite the topic, but just something to look into as Andy hopefully sims here shortly, and then again in a couple nights from now. So,
Oh yeah, no, definitely. We can kind of touch on that after this too. Always open for other stuff. But we kind of hit on the whole GB thing. I know it's kind of his mantra, kind of developed into like a little GD prodigy, GB to GD. That's how it goes. It's from B D. But he kind of he sets his prices just like GD does. And you meet him, you meet him. If you don't, you don't. And then fuck off. But I do think that he kind of missed the boat on a little bit of depth if he could have. He really could have, or if he was willing to. It seemed to me he was trying to trade that one pitcher, one that people believe that he was good. There's not enough people to believe that he's really going to be good. So I think he really could have, but especially at third base because there's Nate Gentry. He has shitty. He's held up this year pretty well. One injury to him to the end of the season really hurt his playoff. I think that's something that there's many third that I've seen available and talked about them as something that he would have a hold of. yeah, definitely the Montreal Boston. I get that it's not Fred's thing to make a lot of deals and all that, but there's got to be a time you got to do. You can set yourself apart to win a division. It at least gets you a 5 games, a lot better chance than a 1 game playoff. Especially with Central's going to get the probably going to. Oh, you're going to get the wild card. Whatever. I think you try for the division. The other thing, the Central, is with the Reds. The Reds selling off what looks like to be bench/depth pieces. Just in general, I see that he gave you Dave Kendall. Who's his third catcher? If he has an injury to one of the catchers, who comes up? It would be Steve Montigwe, and that and that's the guy that you want to rely on. I don't think so. I think for the fact that Kendall has a salary of 4.8 million, which comes out less than for the final month. You just say screw it, keep him because he's depth. That's some kind of adds on to what we talked about with the other trade. It was a little bit of a head scratcher. How would you get rid of all these guys when you also might need that depth?
It added to my depth. I was okay with it. I mean, I think every single one of those guys that he traded me, I threw into my depth. Actually, I think I threw one straight onto my bench. Not even my, September depth, like actual bench. So maybe two of them. I can't remember now off the top of my head. But yeah, the depth this time of year it could be important, especially in a playoff chase.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just keep the depth. Keep the depth, especially when you're a division leading team. The whole thing of with him was, yeah, I get it. You're kind of bleeding money a little bit, but you've got 53 million. You're not going to go in the black or it'd be in the red. You're not going to go in the red this season. Gonna lose what? Your projected loss of 58 million, so you might lose another 8 million last month. Oh, whoop de damn do. Figure it out next off season. That's what you really want to do. Which a lot of those guys you can just cut and not resign if that's what you really want to do. So
Yeah, I mean let's be honest. I got rid of Yannick Matthews, sent him over to your division for some depth.
I
Kendall
like that
and
move.
yeah, I bet you do. I bet you love that move because he's actually going to play him, and then you're going to get some easy wins. No, I bet you're head over heels for that. But I got two guys that Souza and Kendall. I mean, those are good backups for me. I'm pretty sure I have Souza on my bench right now as a backup. And then I also got that outfielder Espinosa? No, something like that.
I used to be on the
Esposo.
Cleveland Indians.
Esposo. He's pretty sure he was here before. Yeah. Cleveland to New York to Seattle to Washington to Cincinnati, now back to Seattle. So he's a dude that's making some money. But something I also realized after the fact that he's got a year of RB left. So, or a couple of years of RB left, actually. So screw it. I'll keep him as a nice backup for a couple of years. No big deal.
Yeah, that was real interesting one because I think he deleted his little trade post
I
after
did.
he made the deal with you or you did because I
Yep.
could have swore it was like he was a guy who he wasn't just giving up for a cast. Like he listed like this guy for cast, this guy for cast, this guy for cast, and then a couple other guys that didn't have this guy for cash. So it was like, okay, I'm not even gonna ask on him because I'm not gonna give up a real prospect for him.
No,
However,
he
if
was
I had
definitely.
known that you were just gonna dump him, I would have totally said, "Hey, I'll take him. I'll even give you a couple bucks for him." So I guess it's all like just after I saw it all play out. That's why I just told him, like Theo, dude, you could just cut more and be better off than trading for me for what you're going to trade him for. Legitimately, you're going to give me
It's
more
one of
than
those.
what his buyout costs.
Yeah, well,
But
it's one of those. It's one of those things. Some people take the depth. Some people don't. Um, Baldy, the reason why Yannick Matthews died faster than anybody else you've seen under 30 is because he touches himself at night.
yeah, he really sucks now. I remember him being decent,
Oh,
but
I
now
remember making a big offer for him at one point because I was just in love with him, and I sent Rocket like a legitimately nice size offer to acquire his services. And was told in a very polite fashion to go fuck myself. Um, and then he just magically died out of nowhere. So I'm just in my back of my mind, I've always thought like, well, dodged a bullet on that one.
yeah, there are guys like that. Guys who you think, yeah, you look at him, you think, well, this guy's gonna be great, and then you look at his career projection, peaked out at 25, declined at 27. Ooh, glad I missed that one. Yeah, guys happen like that.
There's 2 or 3
But
guys, Maddie, this in the last week or so that I've asked about. That within a sim of me asking about them, they drop. I'm just like, oh, thank God that they did not want to make a deal with me for that person. So
I mean, I know that all too well. You can just check out my latest my off-season edition from the Braves, John Brinson.
oh, he
That
died,
was in
didn't he?
'93 when I picked him up. He dropped twice during the year to an 87, and I'm thinking, what did I do to deserve this? To deserve 2 drops? I don't know, but apparently I did. So
Don't
it
don't
is
feel
what it
bad.
is.
I had a hot flying young reliever get injured for like a month and drop 7 points.
Like the sad thing is, he's still pitching pretty decent, but it's one of the things I know. Like I'm not going to resign him. No one's going to offer him type B, so I'm pretty much screwed with him for the future. So, but whatever. Sometimes that stuff happens, and I guess maybe that's where some of the people are not willing to fork up for deadline acquisitions because they're afraid of the future. I say don't be afraid of the future drops and go for it. Just if you're thinking about future drops, I know I think someone said it in the chat of here's the hint. Every player will drop at some point. So um you just gotta make the best educated guess. Go for it. It's a difference of seeing a guy who's 27, 28 when you pick him up, thinking he might not be in decline versus pick up a guy who, hey, he hasn't showed any decline. Well, he's 35, so you have to know it's coming, right?
You should.
Obviously, it's and the people are like, oh, he's 35, he hasn't shown any decline, and then he declines that year. Oh my gosh, I did not see that coming. Really? Because I think everyone did, except you apparently. So there's
But
those.
remember, you cannot point that out as part of trade negotiations.
You cannot. You can't say, hey, this guy dropped or he's older, so I'm worried about decline. However, I'm still interested at this price, not your
Yeah,
price.
don't remember that's a no-no. I'm pretty sure
That
that's one of
is
the
a very much pissing on trade value.
I mean,
I would
I'm pretty sure
say
we
it's
were
just pointing out
yeah,
logic and facts, but
right. I'm pretty sure we're not supposed to do that. So shh.
yeah. Or
I
the
shouldn't
fact
say
that, hey,
I shouldn't say anything because now I'm gonna get even more drops in my Sim Christmas file. So
I know, but I'll say them. So, hey, you and I aren't gonna resign this guy, right? Nope, nope. Okay, I'll offer you a nominal prospect. Not enough. I need a legitimate major league piece for him. Okay, I'm gonna keep him for a month. He's gonna stay in my 40-man extras. He's just there for injury insurance. If someone gets injured,
I
sure,
know
I'm gonna play him.
you and I used to have fights over that all the time, and I've finally just come around to been like, no, I've agreed with you on that point. At this point, there are certain guys that if you're not going to use them, you're not going to sign them, and the Matty offer of 100,000 comes across, just fucking take the money. Like you're not going to use him. You don't care about him.
Exactly. That's
Like
the point of like,
just fucking sell him. Just sell him for nothing. Get a little bit of cash for him. Who the fuck cares? If the worst happens and all of a sudden you need that 6th outfielder, go to free agency. I signed a bunch of dudes in free agency for draft day contracts this year that are decent players that could probably play on a lot of these rebuilders. Or probably should be playing on a lot of these rebuilders. There's right now. I bet if I clicked on the file, I'd see 3 guys that any contender could sign. It would probably be a decent pickup for them to have, as at the very least, a bench option.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's just yeah. I mean, it's like every season I make like a nominal offer for a guy that I think neither of us are signing him. You're not going to offer him compensation. Here's a couple bucks for him. No, I need more. I need like a 4th round offer for him. And I'm thinking, what? So basically, it's 4th rounder for agency. That's basically what you're up against. Sounds
Right.
absolutely retarded.
it doesn't make a damn bit of sense. And just to prove my point, for those of you who are going to do this and take me seriously, because you probably should, if you need a pitcher, you need a 5th starter, you need a long reliever, you just need somebody that, just in case, Denny Busby, sitting there in free agency, get him. You get him for nothing if you need him. Not the worst guy to have as your backup plan. Shit, even the guy right above him, Dave Hingston, probably not the worst guy to have as your backup plan. A little bit of a control movement guy. Is he going to pitch well? No, he's not going to pitch well. But do you need him to? No, you need him just in case for a thing or two. Shit, Stu Sandler's out there. Fuck it. Take a gamble on him. Is he a terrible pitcher? He's a 4 or 5 career guy. Sure, he's not that great. But do you need somebody for a sim or two? Get him for nothing. Not the biggest deal in the world. Dennis Jordan, if you need a bat, is out there. This isn't rocket science. You can look for free agency right now. I could probably make a team out of the free agents currently available that would get to 50 wins in a full season. Look at the free agency, folks. It's not a hard concept. And there's guys out there that'll probably help you out. If you have guys out there that don't help you out, that you don't need, and somebody offers you a little bit of money on, just take the fucking money. And
Yeah,
move
you could
on.
probably make a team out of the free agency that'll get you the 60 wins, but there's some teams that are struggling to get the 50, and that's what is so hilarious about the rebuilding versus yeah,
I
that's
think
just
everybody's going to clearly. Well, I mean, the AL is basically all at 50 already, and the couple in the NL that are close. I don't think we have any concern of that this year. I don't think that's a big deal. But that's the thing. Like, good
no,
God,
it's
if I
not a
ever
big deal this year, but in general, it
in years
can
past,
be, and it's just like
absolutely
one of those just go out and
stupid
sign a
things.
guy who might be okay enough instead of, well, I have this guy who's 68. That it might be okay. Screw it. I'll
If
send him out for a half a year, and if it really blows up on my face, then I'll do something about it. Why not just sign a decent guy for 600K in free agency and
right, if
move
I ever
on?
have to go full rebuild, I swear to God, I'm going to burn it to the ground where I have nothing there, and I'm going to wait till after the free agent file's done and out, everybody's done their biddings, and I will purely get whatever's left, and I'll still get 60 wins.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you can definitely do that because I see
Uh,
it where
and I'll do it just
it's opening day, and sometimes there's I'll look through and go, yeah, I can pick this guy off. I can pick that guy off for a
that,
draft day deal, and
that's what I do my free agency
there we go.
shopping is the
I'll get
winter ball
my
sim. That's when I do my free agency shopping because everybody's done and picked over it, and I'll take whatever's left. I could easily get 60 wins off a guy after spring training sim. I could build a whole team and get 60 wins off that easy.
certainly. So then that within went all that way just to go talking to our 3rd trade.
Oh yes, our
That
final trade of the evening. That's right.
yeah, the
The one that
final
was
trade,
recently added.
the recently added Milwaukee, Minnesota trade that was asked about to talk about, which was first baseman Smith and catcher Tyrese Davis to Minnesota. To Minnesota? Yes, to
Yes, to
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
For shortstop Doan, second baseman Vittengoff, and second baseman Zakzik. For me, I'm really not much of a fan of the return for Milwaukee. However, I really don't see wanting anything for Minnesota. You get that first baseman who he's okay, which is cool, not terrible, but what does he really do for you being at 27? And then there's that catcher, which I think he will be eligible for another year of arbitration after this year. Cool. You get a backup catcher for another year. You sold it out for all those other prospects. To whereas, I don't like Doan because that fielding is real low. I think he'll make so many more errors. The range and speed just will not make up for it. But I'd still take him over Smith and the backup catcher for 1 year.
Yeah, I kind of like Doan. I remember him in the draft. I liked him. He was on my list. So I don't know a lot about Smith, but I don't think I was the biggest fan of him. He's just a dude like any other first baseman dude. Like, there's so many of them like that out there. So I saw the trade. I'm just like, oh, like I think it makes sense for both. I think I might like it a little bit more from Walker because again, in my mind, I remember liking Doan, or Duan or whatever we want to call him. Duran for all I care, because I really don't. I haven't actually clicked on him since he looks like he jumped, but no, he's the exact guy that I thought he was. I liked him because he reminded me of my shortstop Deer Dyer a bit. So yeah, I like him, and I think I like him more than Smith. So I mean, if we want to use the Gilly system, which I highly recommend we don't, I'd probably give Milwaukee a 0.5 just because I don't think that first baseman they sent was much of anything. So. I mean, yeah, he's a decent guy. 27. Does he peak out? Does he get another jump? Let's look at the speeds. He might get his boost, but he's more than likely going to just kind of blah. So I think I like it slightly more from Milwaukee. Oh, and Pa was telling us we're about to finish up, so we better hurry up here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think he's just. I think the other thing is that Milwaukee's rebuilding. So what are the 27-year-old going to do? Is he going to be there for you beyond the rebuild? No one could. So
right,
that's what that one is.
It seemed a little weird, but at the same time, if you like the first baseman, you think he's going to get another big jump, which he could. I'm not recommending it, but we'll see. So, all right. Yeah, no second download, Jermaine. All right. We'll wrap it up. We got 10% left, which means we probably got like 20 minutes. So,
yeah. So I guess that'll leave it open to any last other trades that you thought of to talk about real quick.
No, I mean, I think that's about. There was that other deal. There was Chicago made that other deal. I don't think
With Goodall.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier as not liking it. I don't. Goodall is a guy that I was glad I didn't trade for. I asked for him 2 sims ago, and Warpriest said no, and then he had a big drop, and I'm just like, oh, thank God I missed out on that one because I probably would have paid more than I should have to get him because I liked him, and then he dropped, and now Chicago's bringing him back. So we'll see.
Well, I guess if you want to shit on another Chicago deal real quick?
We have about 2 minutes, so yeah, let's do that, and then we'll sign off and not make Jermaine download 2 things.
So here's one that I found kind of interesting. Chicago paid $6 million for Greg Stark, who signed for $1 million in the offseason. Now, if you were to put that to the full season worth, that means he paid $36 million for him. That's the prorated So yeah, the prorated price is $6 million. Yeah.
I love the hustle out of Cheeto. Gets a guy that he signed for nothing, gets $6 million out of him. It's a baller move. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you've already paid him most all of his salary, and you get almost 6 times it back. It's crazy. Did not understand wanting to pay that much for him because, like I said, like I even told Poldy and that's a full season deal. You're paying this much for him. Why are you not posting it yet?
Hey, listen,
I would have ran with that.
It's the same move I made with Stang 2 sims ago when I picked up Winger. I offered him Whitson for Winger, so I'm like, fuck, it's basically almost an even up salary dump. Like, screw it. And he's like, I want a piece too. I'm just like, fuck. And so we went back and forth. He wanted a real piece. I didn't want to give a real piece. And then finally, I just offered him a guy that I picked up off of UDFA. This I think it was this year or last year. They looked like he had a jump, and he's like, oh, I'll take him. Like, done. Like, it's one of those guys that you pick up, hope they do something, and then you don't mind if you trade him because you got him for fucking nothing. It's the same thing that Cheeto just did. He sold a guy he got for nothing. So bravo to him.
Yeah, so that's one of the other like, wow, because I was thinking of offering him $100,000 for him, and he told me, hey, if this other guy didn't come and offer me all this cash, I would have taken that.
Right.
Like,
Well,
I
again,
don't blame you for off taking more. No qualms about that, but whew,
yeah.
guy who I thought was gonna just be a depth ad, you offer that much for? Wow, you kind of like outbid yourself there by a long stretch.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, to keep Jermaine happy and to keep our time at a relative minimum, we are going to finish up here. So, from all of us to all of you, you're welcome for our hours of rambling. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we probably did. Sim is about to happen or has just happened, so enjoy that as well. We have the playoffs a week from this Tuesday. So remember, Sim tonight, Sim Tuesday, and then we're off until next Sunday, going over the other fake holiday that's coming up here. So enjoy the break. There'll probably be other podcasts during that time. Maybe we'll get a playoff preview in at some point. I know Pody has another thing that he's working on as well. So look forward to those and more. And again, we'll catch you on the flip side. Night, everybody.